Welcome to the latest GopherHole podcast. It has been a while since we have done one of these, but when you get a guest like Quincy Avery, you do not pass up on this opportunity. For those of you that don't know him, that are not immersed in the football world, this man has trained just about every good quarterback there is. And I'm sure you're probably feeling a little modest right now, but I mean, if you've heard of people like Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Jordan Love, Josh Dobbs, Geno Smith, DeShaun Watson, Jalen Hurts. I mean, I need a drink after even like saying all those names. Who am I missing?
CJ Stroud. Oh, CJ Stroud. There's a few. Yeah, CJ Stroud, a few others, but we've been really fortunate to get connected with some really talented quarterbacks, some really talented young men. And you're forgetting about Max Brosmer.
That is actually the reason that we've got you on today. But after doing a little research, I have many more questions since you touched a lot of Minnesota football. So first of all, let's just dive right into Max. He's obviously the new Gopher quarterback. Looks like QB number 1. He signed. He's a grad transfer. And what you said about him, he is a grad transfer who is the most talented passer in the portal. And I'm not sure it's that close. You've worked with him. Tell us everything we need to know as Gopher fans.
Max Brosmer is someone who's not only super smart, but he's very accurate. He's athletic enough, right? He's not going to blow you away with his athleticism. He can move enough in the pocket, but in terms of NFL level accuracy, he's up there, right? He can go through a training session with the best of the best guys in the world, throw for throw with those guys. And I think that he's blown some of those guys away with just how talented he was for somebody who was playing quarterback at the University of New Hampshire. So his talent is really through the roof. I think that he's a pro. Like, and when I say he's a pro in the way that he throws a football. He's a pro in the way that he carries himself. He's a pro in the way that he's able to lead a group of young men in order to get them, moving in the right direction. So he's someone I'm a big fan of and have been a big fan of for quite some time.
How long have you worked with him?
I've been working with Max since he was in seventh grade, right? So
Oh
we've
my
had a long relationship. I can actually remember his mom's first message in terms of getting him started in training. He was one of the people who started with my company when we were a little bit newer. So he's someone who I'm so proud of and just how hard they work.
Tell us a little bit more about him and his family because we're Minnesotans. We love the story behind all of these people. And like, we love a good kid. I mean, even though he's now a grad transfer, probably not considered a kid, but he seems like a great kid. So tell us a little bit more about his character, his family life, and where he's come since you've been training him, obviously, since 7th grade.
Yeah, I mean, great kid. Mom, dad, love him to death. They're really good people. He has a brother, Fish, who plays the trumpet. So you guys might see him playing some music around there. He does an amazing job. But just in terms of like the character, like they've done a tremendous job with two young men who like work really hard and are able to deal with adversity. Max is someone who went through two really, really difficult knee injuries, not like run of the mill ACLs, like could be career ending. He went through one in high school and then he went through one in college. And the way that he handled those things, battled back through adversity, and just like had a plan. Like every single day I'm going to work. These are the things I'm going to work on, and this is how I'm going to improve, and I'm going to come back bigger and better than ever. Like that to me is the coolest thing about him as not only a person, but just a testament to his character. Like he's not going to be denied from the things that he wants.
Love to hear that perseverance in him. Since you've been with him since the beginning, let's even talk about first recruiting because he could have walked on at Georgia, correct? And then he ended up taking this. Like, I'm sure he looks to you for advice, and you've been with him every step of the way. Why did you ever make that decision? I know you had a similar choice too to walk on at Minnesota, and I would love to
Yeah,
know why you did not decide to do that too.
yeah. So the thing about Max is he got injured, right? So he had injured, so a lot of the big recruiting did not happen for him, right? It was just more difficult for him for people to see how talented he was. He didn't get to play, and he had an opportunity to walk on to Georgia. That's a really uphill battle to ever get your opportunity on the field. And I think that he wanted to go to a school who really wanted him and who really thought that he could be a big part of their program. He went in there and got to start as a freshman. So he was able to, be really successful in a place that really wanted him and allowed him to grow and thrive and be the best version of himself. And my advice to him was just go to where you really feel wanted and go to where you feel like you'll be successful and feels like home. And that was New Hampshire for him.
What do you think felt like home at Minnesota for him, and what did the staff do differently from what you've heard from him?
I think that they made it really apparent their plans for him in that offense and how things could be different from the things that they've run previously. I know that they haven't really had a quarterback like Max, and they have a newer offensive coordinator, and I think they might have been hamstrung a little bit by some of the things that they wanted to do and some of the things that they were able and capable of doing. But I think that Max brings a different element, and just in terms of his knowledge of the game, how much he does at the line of scrimmage. Like, if you watch one of Max's games at New Hampshire, he's making every check, making every audible. He understands the game at a graduate level, and that's what um, is going to allow him to be really successful, and that's what makes him different.
How did you, I guess I don't want to say like, how did you advise him to go to Minnesota? But just with the style of play, I don't know how much you watched the Gophers the past year or so. There aren't a lot of pass attempts, and it's probably a tougher system if you're a quarterback. Would you agree with that? How much have you seen? And do you think that that's the new, or just moving forward, the new system fits him better?
I think what they plan on doing at this point is something that would fit him. And if they were going to be running the same things that they ran last year, it isn't somewhere I would be like, I feel good about you going there and being able to live out your dreams, right? So if I thought that that's what they're doing, or if that's what they're going to do on the field each and every week, I think it would be really difficult to say that. But I think the staff did a really good job of explaining to him what their plan was and what their plan is and how they plan to use him. And I think I don't recommend that guys go anywhere, but what I do say is like I can understand what they're saying and I trust it, right? So I hope that they're able to do the things that they told them they were going to do in all those meetings.
What are some of those specifics in the direction that they want to go? Are you allowed to
Nah, I'm
say,
not
or
not going to really drill into that. I hope to see it on the field on Saturdays this upcoming year, but I will say it looks like throwing the football more.
okay, that's great. Sorry, I think I've asked you so many questions. Going back to why you did not go to Minnesota, because you had the opportunity to walk on too.
Yeah, my dad, Minnesota grad, was a starting quarterback for the University of Minnesota. So um, I've seen a lot of Gopher football. Um, my dad and Marion Barber the second were roommates in college. So I grew up around Dominique and Marion. And as Marion was getting recruited there, he was actually on the team. And he's like, you should just come be a walk on. I didn't think that I was going to be able to do the things that I wanted to do with my career, having gone there, having if I would have went there. I had a really good opportunity to play at a lot of HBCUs, and I chose to come down to Atlanta and play at what I thought was the best one.
Morehouse?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I would have guessed that. I just didn't knew that from my research. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so it sounds like you have watched. I mean, I know you're so busy and you watch every game and see everything, but what do you think went wrong last year with the Gophers? And I mean, you can specifically talk about quarterback play or just in general, just knowing the game so much better than the rest of us.
Yeah, and I don't know the young man who was at quarterback, right? So I don't want to beat up on him or say anything or speak in a negative light about him. But I think that when you watch the tape and you see things like a free rusher on defense and not throwing to the hot or making adjustments and things of that nature, you got to ask questions like, is it being coached like that, or is the quarterback not capable of making those adjustments in real time? And when I had the opportunity to really ask the coaching staff some questions, it seemed like they were providing the answers that should allow a quarterback to be successful. So when that happens, it makes it really difficult as an offensive staff to call the game in the way that you want and really put the ball in the air, because you got to trust that the guy who's playing quarterback is going to put you in a situation to be successful.
Absolutely. I've got to ask too. I mean, I actually read the Washington Post article on you, and I can link that for people listening. It was a fantastic background. You literally came from nothing. You were living out of your car. You were homeless. You kept on fighting, and now you are, I would probably say, the most successful quarterback coach probably in the nation. Like, how did you? What do you think you do that's different than what other people do?
I think the main thing that I do in terms of training that's allowed me to be so successful is that all the guys that I work with know that I really care about them, right? And that more than anything is a differentiating factor for me and everybody else. Like, a lot of guys do it and they care about like things that it brings them, but I really want to see everybody be successful. I'm always wishing that I always try and operate in a way that I would have been able to help me when I was in college, right? Or when I was, if I would have been fortunate enough to play in the NFL, like what did it look like, or what would it look like somebody who would have been able to help me in that situation? And that's really what I try to provide. I'm a friend. I think that I study the game as much as anybody. I'm always doing research. So those things are what separates me on the field. But the thing that's the real differentiator that allows me to be so successful is that I care about these guys and I want them to be successful. And I do everything that I can to be successful. It's not like a money grab for me. And I think other people probably see it that way.
Hey, you bring up a great point about the relationships, because in the past, it seems like a lot of the coaches that have had the best relationships have done very well with recruiting and everything. Now with NIL, do you think that these young men are as focused on like that mentor, that father figure, that big brother, like that person who's going to have their back? Or do you think they're looking more at like dollar signs? And how do you advise your clients about this? Because I think it's really easy to see this bag of money, but like, what about the actual future relationship, career, all of those things?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? I think that when you have an opportunity to make a large sum of money, then you always need to be really mindful of how that's going to impact not only right now, but your future, right? So you should be mindful of that. If you have an opportunity to get a lot of money, you should get it. But relationships are always important. But just like guys in the NFL, there's NFL quarterbacks who have really good relationships with their coaching staff because they care about those people. And I think that now with NIL and the transfer portal, the thing that has happened is coaches have to be or should be more honest with the guys, right? I'm not that they ever shouldn't have been honest, but you get to hold their feet to the fire a little bit more about their honesty, right? Because you can always just transfer. And I think that that's put more of an onus on college coaches to respect these young men, treat them like adults, have real big boy conversations, and make sure that they are being authentic with them on the front end so that they keep those guys around in the back end.
That's a great perspective, because obviously with Minnesota not having the resources, let's say, as other schools, it seems like, it's been quite a hindrance for a smaller school, like, well, I shouldn't say smaller, but just a less funded school. But to think about it that way with the relationships and having to be honest and whatnot, that's a totally different perspective. Um, what how else do you think that that it's changed the game? Like, as far as, do you think that like a school like Minnesota is going to be able to compete on a level, with, Michigan, Ohio State?
And there'll be like an off year where they'll be able to, right? But sustained excellence just takes resources. And unless the University of Minnesota is willing to put all the resources into the program that is going to allow it to be successful and allow it to have enough money to punch with the big boys, then it's just going to be too hard to do it year in and year out. And I think that it's interesting. You see a school like UCLA and USC who are both coming to the conference. USC is a school that year in and year out is going to put money behind their program and they're going to put people in a position where they should be able to be successful. And UCLA doesn't have those same resources, right? So it's just those little things that make a difference, right? You should never have a coordinator from one conference leave and go to another school in that conference, which looks like a lateral move, but it isn't, just because they're making so much more money.
Right. The thing is, though, if you're referring to Joe Rossi, I'm not positive on the statistics on him, but I mean, he was our highest paid. I think he was at seven figures. So the Michigan State move, I don't think he was making that much more.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was talking about what UCLA and USC experienced.
Oh, okay.
UCLA lost Lynn, their defensive coordinator, to USC in a really lateral move. Like he's in the same city, and the quality of life is changing dramatically just because he's going to a different team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got it for all the Vikings fans that are going to listen or watch this. I've got to ask about Josh Dobbs.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of one of the first guys that you worked with, correct?
Was He was the first quarterback that I ever trained.
So he is like the most special place in your heart. He obviously seems like an awesome guy. He's brilliant. First of all, do you like looking at this and Max, like, do you only work with smart quarterbacks?
You know, Max is a nerdy dude too now. He's I work with everybody. But it's fun to see people excel in multiple aspects of their life.
So Josh, tell us about his development, what you thought about him being pulled last week. I just saw a tweet from Kurt Warner saying that he didn't think that he should have been pulled. What's your analysis on this?
You know what's funny is I try not to talk about the coaching minister. Kevin O'Connell and I were a roommate for like a week way back in like 2015 or something like that. So really good relationship with the head coach. Great relationship with Dobbs. I don't think he should have been pulled. Like when you watch the tape, there were some drops. Like I thought he was doing some good things, and him and I haven't talked about it. We'll talk a little bit later this week, but I'm sure he's frustrated, right? And he's been in some difficult situations, but the NFL is a results-based business, and I understand, I guess, why they did it. I'm not sure that it was fair, but the NFL is not fair. Like we're not looking for fair; they're looking for wins, and people are paid a lot of money to win games. So I'm sure Kevin thought that he made the right decision. I'm sure that Josh probably doesn't agree with that, but when Josh gets his next opportunity, whatever that looks like, he's going to be ready because that's who he is. He's always ready. He always prepares like a pro, and he's like the salt of the earth. Like you couldn't ask for a better person to be in your organization.
He looks like it. I mean, everything like okay, so just in transparency, I'm a Packer fan, so not a Vikings person at all. And like he came on and I was like rooting for this guy. Like he seems so smart, he seems so down to earth. And what do you think that he needs to do to just like he obviously has gotten these opportunities, he's made some big plays and done some big things, but like to maintain that level, that starter position, what do you think needs to happen?
You know, it's so hard in the NFL when you're coming from his position, right? It's a lot easier when you're someone that a team's invested a lot of either money or resources into. It's just the economics of it. If they haven't invested a lot into you in that way, you don't get the same opportunities to make mistakes, to go through the downtimes.
Mhm.
Josh has been in the league for a long time, but he has not had that many opportunities to play football. This is the first year. No, last year was the first year that he got on the field. Like
Mhm.
really any substantial time. Last year was the first time he started like 13 games in total. He has not had the opportunity to go through ebbs and flows. He goes places he barely knows the offense. He goes out there and does his best, but he just needs to be somewhere for a while, and then them not have, and them just be committed to him as a quarterback. And if he ever got that opportunity, I know that he would be successful.
It sounds like it. I mean, the fact that he already stepped up for the Vikings in such a short time, like learning that playbook, learning the players, learning everything in what was it, 3 days did he have here?
Yeah, he got traded there on a Wednesday, so it was Wednesday. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What else is there anything else that I should be asking you about Max that Gopher fans should expect from him?
No, I don't think so. He's a great dude. I don't know
Mhm.
anybody who doesn't. Max is a great dude, but Max is authentic, and that to me is something that you can take anywhere. He's gonna be himself every single day. He doesn't try and change no matter the room he's in. I think if you look at my roster of quarterbacks, you'll be like, oh, okay, I see what kind of quarterbacks he works with. Max will come in there in his freaking hey dudes, his flannel shirt, and just be himself. And that is to be commended because there's a lot of people who are frauds, right? They try to be something that they're not in order to appease a lot of people. You're not going to get that with Max. He's a grown dude. He's a grown man, and he's going to handle business when he gets there.
How much do your quarterbacks get to work with each other?
All the time, like nonstop. We train together a ton.
How do you do that? Because I mean, they're located all over.
Yeah, a lot of them come back to Atlanta. So many of the quarterbacks I work with are in the Atlanta area. So we're doing stuff here. A lot of quarterbacks who are in Miami in the off season. So creates a situation where guys can get together pretty easily.
That's great. I've got another one for you too. From a fan perspective, like we're always the ones criticizing a quarterback, saying things. Obviously, we don't know the game like you do. What do you think is most overlooked by fans when they're criticizing a quarterback?
Man, I watch. So my thing is, I watch every single interception every week, and I see that people talk a lot about the numbers. Like, oh, he threw this many interceptions. They're so unaware of, did a receiver do something wrong, right? Did he run the wrong route? Did he move after the quarterback threw the ball? Was there a miscommunication? Was it a drop ball? The stats don't always tell the story. You got to really be able to watch film, dive into it, and understand the details in order to understand how well a quarterback's playing. But if you just tell me stats, that means nothing to me. Like, you got to cut on the film and really dig into every single play and understand that every single play is a game of chess, right? And these movements and everything works together so well, and that you have to have a plan and execute it correctly. But sometimes the defense wins because they just had a better plan than you. But um, then sometimes you can just overpower them. You guys can both have the same level of plan, and you can make a great play. So there's so many things that are involved in the intricacies of playing the game of quarterback, and especially, I mean, the game of football, and especially at the quarterback position.
That's really interesting to know because I think people are so quick to criticize, but it's there are just so many elements in football that it's a great perspective to have yours. And I just can't thank you enough for coming on, talking about Max, talking about Josh, about your background. So happy for a local Minneapolis guy being so successful and doing so well, and keep on being who you are.
Appreciate it. I look forward to come to a game in Minnesota. I haven't been to a Gopher game in quite some time.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll have to host you. We'll have a tailgate for you and everything.
Can't wait.
All right. Thanks so much, Quincy.
Perfect.